was my worst. And for a grown man at 31 to be crying in his mum and dad's bed with his mum holding him, crying my eyes out for 3 days, and I was begging my mum for another drink.
James, brother, good to see you.
Good
Thanks
to
for
see you.
coming.
A pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Oh, I believe you're celebrating 13 years.
13 years in August.
From what? Alcohol and drugs?
Yeah, both. Drinking, drugs. Amazing.
And how's that make you feel, mate?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I mean, how long have I known you for now? Over 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least.
It is over 10 years.
And you've done well, mate. It's massive, that. So, tell me from the start, what got you into addiction? What made you think you're an addict?
So just obviously starting just obviously drinking as you do from 16. Nothing ever happened. I wasn't like proper mad for it straight away or anything like that. And then I really got into the scene about 19, drinking and sniffing, and that's when I my first line. That's when it really took off for me. That's
So
when it.
Not the alcohol. It was the coke that really.
The coke that really took it off, and then I just went. I just sort of knew it was just like drinking drugs, from like I said, from being about 19, and just doing like mad stuff, like sniffing. Like I'd only been using, say, like 3 or 4 months or something, and I was already sniffing first thing in the morning and stuff like that, and I knew deep down that it's just like, it's not normal, this.
So from the minute you started sniffing, 4 months later, you could see a progression?
Oh, massive, huge. And always sticks in my mind when, like on a Monday, I won't go in work on a Monday, my mum used to say, why can't you be like your brother? And I used to promise her, you know, I used to say, she said, you need to, I said, I promise I'll stop. I promise, and I meant it. I meant it. I was only like 19, 20, I meant it. But I never knew how, and then 2 or 3 days later, I'm all lit up again on like a Thursday, thinking it's a good idea to have a couple, and it just got worse and worse, and I'm not going to lie, I had some great times on drink and sniff, I really did, but it really took off to me. I got my own place in Wythenshawe, I got my own flat in Wythenshawe at 23. My daughter was 3 at the time, and I was living on my own in the flat, and she was living with my partner, her mum, and a stepbrother in another house in Wythenshawe, and it was just all messed up from the get-go, really, and nobody knew what I was drinking, and how much and how often, and I sort of just went off the rails then. From 23, really, went really off the rails.
Would you say no one knew because you hid it well?
Massively. Yeah. The people knew, but not to the extent that it actually was. And it was only a short space of time till I did my first. It was only 3 years, from 23 to 26. I did my first meeting at 26.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was only 3 years that it went nuts, where it was like full on, and I knew it progressed so quick in me. It's just nuts, getting into so much trouble, and still living in the flat on my own, and dealing. Obviously, I was dealing drugs to fund the habit because I didn't want to work and pay for it. And it was only 3 years and it ended up that I was just like, I need to do something about this. I can't. Obviously, I wasn't ready at 26, but I knew we had a problem. I knew I needed outside help at that time. No more hiding. I'd go on like week benders on my own, and I remember I'd come to on the sofa at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'd still be drinking whiskey and sniffing coke and watching Jeremy Kyle, thinking my life's not that bad. Do you know what I mean? Can't be that bad. But just nuts.
Because we're always comparing, aren't we?
Always.
Always comparing.
Always. And something else I used to do, I'd move the goalposts. So I'd go, if you end up doing this, then I'll stop.
Yeah, same.
And that would happen.
Same.
And then I'd think, well, if I lose my job, then I'll stop. I lost my job. I think, well, I've still got my flat, so if I lose my flat, then and I just kept moving the goalposts all the time. Yeah. But I knew I had a problem at 26, and I went to the rooms of AA. a friend took me, and I went, and I weren't ready. I was still dealing drugs, and all they did was put down the drink and drugs. All my behaviours, everything else stopped. So I wasn't ready.
Didn't work on yourself?
No, not at all.
When you first went into the rooms of AA, because I'm in
Yeah, of course.
When you first went into the rooms, because I can remember my first ever meeting.
Yeah,
like
me
it was
too.
yesterday. Yeah, that's how fucking scary it was. When you first went in, did you believe, you knew you had a problem?
Yeah.
But did you believe you were an addict or suffered from the disease?
No,
alcoholism?
no, not at all, because I didn't know what an addict was, and I didn't know what the disease was at that time.
Yeah.
I used to think going in the rooms of recovery was, it's like story time. You'd go tell your story.
Yeah.
And obviously I love speaking about myself and stuff, and I was always sharing, but it was just, I just was not ready at that time.
So you're anything like me, mate. Well, you've seen it yourself. I'd come in, I'd be out, I'd come in, I'm out, like a revolving door. But I knew I had to keep going, because I knew ultimately this is going to get worse.
Yeah,
I
of course.
kid myself, but still I didn't have enough in me to put in the change at that time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But that first time I went in, like you, I didn't have a clue what an addict was. Didn't have a clue what an alcoholic was. I just believed an addict or an alcoholic was the people I used to see on the streets with a brown paper bag with a bottle.
100%.
Pins sticking out their arms.
100%.
So to me, when people saying you've got a problem, yeah, I've got a problem, but I ain't an addict.
No,
I'm not an
mate.
alcoholic. Because to me, I didn't drink every day. I didn't even sniff every day.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the biggest delusions out there.
Yeah. I was a binge. I'd binge for like a week, 10 days, and then stop for like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, same.
Build the structure back up.
Yeah. Cuts it right down.
Family start loving me again. Well, not loving me, but family started talking to me again. Work going amazing. Obviously, having daily showers, because I wasn't when I was bang at it. And building the structure up, and obviously my parents and my brothers and sister-in-laws and my family would go, I think he's got it this time. I think he's got, and then 3 weeks later, it'd be a good idea to have a couple of bottles of board and a 0.5, and next thing you know, another week bender commences. So, and I kept saying, why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep doing this? But it took me 5 years, like you said, in and out, in and out, in and out. It took me 5 years, from 2000 and, when did I go? October 2005 was my first meeting.
Was it?
October 2005, and I got sober in the August 2010. So for 5 years, just done in and out, in and out, in and out. I had some bits of sobriety, a year, 16 months, few months, but it was like
Nothing
August.
lasting.
No, because I always put something before recovery.
Yeah. So, well, we all do. We all do, up until that point where it's that ultimate surrender inside, isn't it?
And then this time in 2010, it was just something was just different.
Can you explain? Because if there's people on here that are maybe struggling and, you know, they think they've had enough, because I know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
When you've done a bender, you've let your missus down, you've let your kids down, you spent all your money in your bank account. With me, self-harming, wanting to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Come down, basically. I knew that was going to come every time as well, but it didn't stop me from doing it. I always wanted to quit forever on them come-downs. What do you think the difference is from having them feelings of a come-down and then, like, say, a few days later you're back on it, to like when the penny drops? Could you even explain what that is?
When my last bender was my worst, and for a grown man at 31 to be crying in his mum and dad's bed with his mum holding him, crying my eyes out for 3 days, and I was begging my mum for another drink, and she said, the one thing that's killing you, you won. And it was the one thing that I knew would sort me out short term. And thank God for my mum and dad, because they nursed me through those 3 or 4 days, and they didn't give in. And I just knew I'd never been. So that was my worst. So for me, I'd never experienced delirium tremors before that point, and I did at that point for 3 days. The shakes and the seeing things. I saw spiders all over the floor. There was nothing there. I remember hearing 2 African men having a conversation next to me, and I opened my eyes and nobody was there.
See, is that through alcohol?
Yeah. That was pure alcohol, because on my last bender 10 days, I never had any drugs, because I used to spend it all on drink. I could get more drink with it, because obviously sniff was more expensive.
I've never had that through alcohol, because I was always had a drink, The minute I would smell a fucking froth on a Stella, I'm getting a sniff.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
already
of course.
a thing. But I had psychosis through cocaine, so I can relate to that
Yeah.
same things. It's scary because you actually believe it's happening. I mean, a lot of people identify this, sniffed up in a kitchen on your own, checking out the back window all the time because you're telling you someone's there, but you know no one's there. You know no one's there, and you go in every 5 minutes. But that's the strength of this psychosis.
Unbelievable.
You're going to do things even though you know yourself you're not doing it, and I could pray. It's sort of like what we class as in the rooms as insanity.
I'm just thinking now, obviously, just like sort of switch it to a bit of a lighter note. So there'd be two of us, right, in my flat in Withenshaw, and we'd have loads of sniff and loads of drink, and we'd hear the birds tweeting at 6, 7 in the morning, and it's usually always one person would go paranoid, and it was always me, checking the curtains, who's in my garden, right? We'd sort of 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, we'd sort of go to bed with a load of drink in us to knock us out, get up at 11, 12 o'clock or something. The first thing we'd say was, good night, wasn't it? I don't know. We've not said a word. We never spoke. It took us half an hour to say, are you all right? Because we just couldn't speak. Mate. We were that sniffed up and that on it. But, I mean, I used to have there was me and one other lad, and we were inseparable at that time. Great lad. Just got back in touch with him now, and we're sort of building new relationships now, because it's not how it was. And we'd always have great intentions, right? Let's get an eighth. Just an eighth. And he'd go, yeah. And I'd say, we'll go home, we'll go to the flat, we'll iron our shirts, we'll have showers, we're going to go town. We're not going to touch it until we start in town. We won't have any. And we go, no. And this happened loads. And we go, right, we're going to do it. So we'd pick up the eighth, we'd have a few beers. I remember he'd be ironing his shirt, I'd get out the shower.
Line of coke.
And he'd go, should we just have a little one?
Sneaky one.
And I'd go, go on then, we'll just have a little one. Within 10 minutes, it's like, should we just put a DVD on? And we wouldn't
Mate,
go
the
out.
amount of times, in the end,
happened so many times.
I'd spend £300 in a shithole pub in Levenshulme on a Wednesday night. Like, as long as I had my bag of coke and alcohol, and then probably somewhere else to go, even though I knew work was the next day, and I had all intentions of going to work.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Even though I knew every time I'd done that, I didn't go in work. So that was the insanity. Now I'm going to be all right, I'll knock it on the head at 2 o'clock. But, mate, I was that happy in the end. Bars and clubs didn't interest me because I just wanted to get... It's not even off my head. It was to feel numb. It was to remove myself from reality. And at the time, I didn't even really know why it was. But, mate, the amount of times, I'd go back to someone's flat, I'd be happy. Because in the end, once I'd had too much, I couldn't socialise with anyone.
No.
My head was gone. I wanted to be in a shithole somewhere, surrounded by people who were sniffing and drinking like me. And like you say, I've been sat in flats where I've been in the kitchen for 15 hours. I don't even know what was spoken about. And you just stood there for hours and hours. It's disgusting. It's
nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
But onto your recovery, mate.
Yeah.
So the bad times were there.
Yeah, plenty.
The penny dropped. What action did you take that was different when the penny dropped? What changed?
So what I did when I after the 3 days when I'd finally got some sort of toast and some water down me, it was hanging. And then I rang a kid. So I thought, my mum said, you need to go back to AA. I said, I know. So I rang a kid that I'd known for years, and I rang him and I said, can you take me through the steps? Can you take me through the 12 steps? And I knew this guy was 25 years sober. Not that length of time has anything to do with it, because it doesn't. But I knew that he'd been through the work and he'd had a spiritual awakening, as it says in the AA Big Book. If people don't know, it's a recovery book that we use in the recovery rooms. Started in 1939. All the 12-step fellowships use it now, from NA to OA to GA, CA, N. They all use it. There's 12 steps that come from 1935 or 1939 when they were written by two guys. And I knew, my mum said, you need to go back to AA. And I said, no. And I rang this kid and he took me through the work. And I remember he met me every day for 2 weeks, but he still made me walk. He made me walk to the top of the road. He wouldn't pick me. He dropped me off, but he wouldn't pick me up.
Why do you think he made you do that?
Because he was putting the action in. Because we have to put the action. I knew I had to put the action in. And I remember after 2 weeks, I was working on what's called a step 4. After just 2 weeks, I remember waking up one morning thinking, I don't want to drink and use today. And that obsession had been lifted and has never returned. And now, obviously, for people that don't know, if you're struggling with addiction, for me, I only know the way I did. I can only share my own experience in what I did. And what I did was, I went to the recovery rooms. Whatever your poison is,
whether it's gambling, sex,
drugs,
cocaine,
cocaine, drink, whatever it may be, you go to that fellowship because they're best well suited. You see, dead quick. See, my sponsor's very, very wise, and he told me this on when I went to see him on Wednesday, and I was going to do a TikTok video on it. I'm not going to share it with you now, dead quick, and you probably heard it.
Exclusives.
You probably heard it. So there's a guy in a hole. It's quite well known, people know it, but there's a guy in a hole, and he's screaming for help. I hope I get this right. And a banker walks past, and he says, "Oh, you're in some trouble down there, aren't you, mate?" He says, "I am, yeah. Can you help me?" He says, "What you need is you need to buy yourself a ladder. Here, writes him a check, throws it down, buy yourself a ladder." And he's like, "I'm still stuck in an hole. You've given me a check for whatever, but I'm still stuck in an hole." Off he goes. Next thing, a doctor walks past, and he says, "God, you've got scrapes on your knees there, and you're crying in a bit of a way. You need some antidepressants, and you need some plasters for your knees. There's a prescription. Take them for a month, see how you get on." He's still down an hole. Psychiatrist walks past. He says, "God, you're in some bother down there, aren't you?" He says, "I am, yeah. Can you help me?" He says, "Well, I'm a psychiatrist. Did your mum and dad put you down that hole? What trauma have you had to be down that hole? I know what you need. You need counselling sessions with me. Come next Wednesday." And he's like, this guy's still stuck in an hole. Next thing you know, walks past, an alcoholic walks past, and he says, "What are you doing down? I'm stuck down here. I'm down this hole." The alcoholic jumps in, and the guy says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Now we're both stuck down." He says, "I know, but I've been stuck down this hole before, and I know how to get out." And what that is it's going to, for me, I was going to lots of different services for help that I hadn't got a clue. God bless them.
That's not their fault, is it?
No, it's not their fault. Do you want to say, God bless them, they're trying.
Yeah.
But this is why I have... this is why I have a lot of success on my social media helping people, because I've experienced what they're experiencing. I've been there, I've done it, and all I do is tell them my experience of how I got out of the hole. Let me show you. And it's amazing. So, yeah, you can't... A psychiatrist can't help me, a banker can't help me, money can't help me, doctor. It has to be somebody that's experienced, and that goes for a lot of stuff in life as well.
Am I right in saying a combination of all them wouldn't help you as well? If you was to take the recovered alcoholic addict out, and you go to your psychiatrist, your meetings, would you say that's sufficient enough to bring around change without the help of another addict?
For alcohol?
Yeah.
No. My opinion, no, and I'll tell you for why. Right, here's another example from me. So every time I go on a bender, and I go on a week bender, my mum would take me to the doctors, and she'd say, "He's got a chemical imbalance."
I've done that, been there.
"He's not balanced," and the doctor would go, "No problem." Depressed.
Easy.
He's depressed, no problem. And he needs some beta blockers as well. There's some anxiety. You got anxiety? Oh, I've got anxiety, yeah.
They're throwing them out at you.
There you go, no problem at all. So I'm taking these. So what he's treating depression and anxiety, in my experience, that I haven't got. Yeah. So I haven't got depression and anxiety. What I'm suffering with is untreated alcoholism. That's what I'm suffering with. So, and I give it to people who go, so when I go into the rooms of recovery, they'll say, well, there's people telling me to come off the prescribed medication. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, come into recovery, do exactly what's suggested for 3 months. If then you go through the 12 steps and you've sort of solved your alcohol problem by working the 12 steps and having a spiritual awakening, and you're still depressed and full of anxiety, that's when your tablets kick in, because that's the correct thing. Yeah. My experience shows me that after 3 months, I came off the beta blockers, then I came off the antidepressants, and I've never took them again in 13 years. Now, that's my experience. Yours might differ from mine. So, to treat what you've just said there for an alcohol problem, no, I disagree. I truly believe. But then again, I know people that or heard of people, heroin addicts, crack addicts, go to church. I can't say find Jesus because he's never lost, but they get connected to Jesus and God, and then all of a sudden, that's their thing.
Yeah.
And they recover in the church, job done. Listen, that's great. That's not my experience.
That's not my experience
And I tell you another thing as well. If somebody comes to me and says, well, they call me JT on social media, JT, I'm 10 years and I've done it with X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Are you living your best life? Yeah. Amazing. Who am I to say you're doing it wrong? You're doing it right. If it works for you, you're doing it right. Yeah. All I want to do is help people start living their best life. It's as simple as that. Not about how you get there.
Because it's that, well, we've had this conversation before in the past. Once I'd done the 12-step program, and you know what I was like as well. I was in and out. I was a joke. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I'm lucky I didn't die. I'm very grateful I'm still here.
Ooh.
But I believe the 12-step program has a place in schools for kids. Because, believe it or not, it's got nothing to do with the drink and drugs.
No.
It really hasn't. The 12 steps is about working on you personally as a human being. And the growth that I've got and the ripple effect it's had on my missus, my kids, my friends is unbelievable.
Huge.
Like yourself, I celebrate 2 years in August. And mate, I cannot believe I haven't took sniff or a drink for 2 years.
It's amazing, brother.
Because from where we've been, I was doing it every other weekend, sometimes during a week, and I couldn't stop to save my life. I couldn't stop for the love of my own kids. I would step over my kids and have a line of sniff.
And that's the thing that people don't. I remember on my one of my last benders, my brother rang me, went, "Where are you?" And I was in a pub in Edgeley, and they had them old copper round tables. It rocked. They had bear mats underneath, right? And it was 10:30, and I'm drinking, and the brother went 10:30 in the morning with all the old guys, all the mobility scooters outside,
nursing a pint.
And my brother would go, "If you love me, you'd leave."
Really?
I said, "I do love you, but I ain't leaving." I remember I was 16 months clean and sober, and I had 2 lines of Coke at the Ricky Hatton fight when I went with a mate. It was just spur of the moment. It was on me to drink, and I didn't drink all through the night. He did. He had a few beers and stuff. All through the night, I didn't drink. We got back to mine, and I sat down, and I took a massive sigh of relief, and I was like, I've not drank. And as I thought that, he pulled out a bag of Coke, and he just pulled it out, passes that CD, and I just went, rack us up. Not caring, the big book speaks about it, the peculiar mental blank spot. I just went, rack us up. Yeah. He did a line, I remember him punching the air, going forward his back. I had another line next morning thinking, what have I done? That was 16 months clean and sober. Yeah. And then 2 or 3 months I was in and out, and I remember saying to my family, I'm going to start controlling it. It was 2 months before Christmas. I'm thinking, I'm going to start controlling it. This is in October 2008. I'm going to start controlling it. My mum and dad were like, are you sure? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be fine. And my daughter was 7 at the time. And 7 or 8. And I remember saying to her, Charlie, I said, just let you know, Dad's going to go back. I'm going to control my drinking. And she burst into tears. She knew what was coming. And I was like, no, it'd be different this time. Within 6 weeks, I'm dealing again, having people knocking on the house, drinking 4 cans of Gold Label, like treacle, in the car, driving home from work. Only worked like 15, 20 minutes away.
And at that time you said that to your daughter,
6
would
weeks
you have believed you would have been back at the races 6 weeks later?
No way. No way.
But knowing what you know now about your self-knowledge, would you say you would drink again and use again?
Now, today, yes.
Same.
Yes, 100%. The book says I will drink and use again.
And that's why I believe it's action, consistency and hard work every single day.
100%.
Every single day. And I'm not saying 100% every day, because none of us could run at 100%.
Oh, can we, heck?
But we've got to be doing things actively outside our comfort zone to be pushing ourselves towards recovery, towards the light. Because I was one of them, like a lot of addicts, I blamed the world for everything. I couldn't see my own shit. And most of the stuff that was negative in my life was caused by me.
Yeah.
But I can only look back now at 36 years of age and see that for what it is. But when I was in the midst of my addiction, it was everyone's fault.
Of course it is.
Absolutely everyone's fault. And that's the delusion, that's the scary thing.
We never want to take responsibility for our own actions.
I still find it hard today, to be honest. But I'm a lot better.
Yeah.
But 13 years, man. What would you say to someone who's watching this now, who's struggling? They've never spoke to anyone about it. What would you be your go-to advice?
First of all, I would reach out to somebody that knows. So somewhere in the video, in the comments, there'll be Mikey's hook, and there'll be my hook as well in there. So if somebody's watching this, so you've clicked on it, don't think you've clicked on it by mistake, because you haven't.
No, it's no coincidence.
There's no coincidences.
No.
Reach out, click one of our names, and just say, I've just watched your podcast and I need help. We can then help and direct you into how we did it. As I said before, it doesn't work for everyone. The church may work for you in this, but all we can do is explain our experience of how it's worked for us, and how we're living our best life. You see, I'll speak for life today, and we only live for today, because one of my favourite sayings is, tomorrow's not promised. No. And tomorrow is not promised for any of us. There's 4 of us sat in this room. Tomorrow is not promised for any of us. You see, when I wake up in the morning, I smile and I thank God for a new day. 100% I thank God for a new day, and I invite him into my life. And do you know why? Because the first blessing is my eyes have opened, because thousands of people this morning and woke up. 100%. Thousands.
Facts.
But we woke up. So all of us, that's a blessing, number one. I'm in a clean bed. I'm in a house. I've got clean clothes, got food in the cupboard. Yeah, okay. Going through storms at the minute. Massive storms. But oh my day, do I feel more closer to God than I ever have in my life? Yes, I do. You see, through every breakdown, there's a breakthrough, and God's with me every step of the way, and I know this. So for anyone that's struggling, click the Instagram hooks. Get in touch. Get in touch with us. We'll help you, guide you through. But as you've heard, we both did it through the. I did it through the. I can't speak for you. You speak for yourself. I did it through the rooms of recovery, AA and CA. And honestly, let me tell you, I am absolutely living my best life.
Yeah. I can second that. I started in CA and AA, 12 steps. Without that, I wouldn't be sat here today.
No way.
I wouldn't have my kids in my life today. And that's a fact. I'm so blessed and so happy, but we understand how hard it is for people out there.
Massive.
And it's a strength to surrender. Trust me, surrender means losing. It doesn't when it comes to addiction. For you to surrender to your innermost self and understand that you need help as a man, that is the biggest strength and the biggest manly thing you can do for yourself. And not only for you, you're doing it for your kids, your family, for everyone.
Listen, I just want to say thanks for inviting me on. Thanks for everyone that's here, that's all made it possible. Amazing.
No, mate.
Love you, brother. Thank you.